this movie taught me that I might simply not like Gothic horror. I think Gothic horror in general, but this movie specifically, works mostly on an emotional and then a symbolic level, where if you try to make too much sense of it in a literal way, it simply doesn't work. I think there are a couple of scenes where they very much choose style over substance, right? So one example of this is Thomas is in the small village in Transylvania near the castle, and his horse is stolen, so he has to walk the rest. And he's kind of been walking for hours, and he's walking down this forest road, and he's on the brink of exhaustion. Orlok sends this carriage towards him, right? The carriage drives towards him, and he walks in the middle of the road, and the carriage almost runs him over. The next cut is to the carriage standing in the middle of the road, and the door is opened by an invisible hand, right? Looks cool, makes no sense. Why does Orlok try to run him over? Why does Thomas not walk to the side? Like, if I'm walking down a forest road and there's something coming towards me, a car or a horse carriage or something, I move to the side, right? And I understand that, like, there's probably a symbolic interpretation of this, and it works on a vibes level. Like, it's a really cool scene if you just watch it. But then at the back of my mind, I have to think, why is anybody doing this? Why is Orlok trying to run him over? Why is Thomas not getting, before he knows that Orlok sent this carriage? Could be anybody, right? So why did he not move to the side? That's an example of a scene where it's a cool visual, and maybe there's a symbolic interpretation of it that you can come up with, but characters are not acting like people in that. Or like that the cause and effect is not really apparent, at least to me. If any of this is explained in the movie, then by all means, let us know in the comments. But it seemed to be a thing where the image and the vibes were put first and the story was put second. And that is something that, I think that's generally true of Gothic horror. And whenever I see people praising the movie, I see them praising it on the level of how amazing this is done in the movie. And I'm like, why are people doing this? And I think that is really kind of like the culture shock that kind of prevents some people from enjoying this movie. And it seems like we are in that camp.
Is there a way to tell a good story through visuals and symbolism without sort of necessarily having it entirely done through the story? And I'm trying to think of examples of it, and I can't off the top of my head because it's not sort of normally in my wheelhouse. But I don't know. Do you guys feel like there is a way of sort of doing something like this the right way, where, you know, even people that don't normally delve into sort of the genre are able to kind of like appreciate the story it's trying to tell through the visuals and symbols, etc.?
In general, my preference is for movies to be more self-contained, and that, so in the sense of just by following what happens in the plot, you can understand what's going on. Things like symbolism and background knowledge that you have can enhance your experience. I think this doesn't work in this movie. I think this presents you with images, and if you don't have the right literary or cinematic background, and you've seen the right movies, you've seen the right books, you are familiar with the right metaphors and whatever, then it's just not there. And I'm not sure that is good storytelling exactly. It certainly is not my preference. I would have much preferred it if the plot, like on a basic level, was logical and characters acted in understandable ways, and then we layer symbolism on top of that to give it more depth and give it added dimension. That would be how I would want the movie to do it.